Welcome to HDRI lighting in Octane. A few weeks ago we went over very focused lighting in Octane and how you can control your lighting to get very specific results in very specific environments, and today I want to focus a bit more on what the real world is like and how using HDRIs can bring you pretty realistic scenes that have a feel about them that is quite like no other. So without further ado, let's get into it. Before the tutorial starts, I want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with Skillshare. It's without a doubt the home for online learning. And you're watching me because you want to be a better version of yourself and progress through your craft. And Skillshare is the perfect place to develop that much further. Skillshare brings you an abundance of meaningful classes for creatives like you and me, and it makes it much more intuitive to develop individual skills within themselves. Maybe you want to hone down your modeling skills or post-production or editing. Maybe you want to learn something new that you've been meaning to do but holding off on because you don't know how to start, and that's really daunting sometimes. And learning through your own exploration, in my experience, is the fastest way to learn. And something that's always been incredibly dear to me is drawing, and over the years I've subconsciously committed to it less and less. I love drawing comic book art and anatomy especially, and around a year ago I started following Robert Marzullo's courses on drawing different parts of the body. And not only have I been enjoying drawing again, but I felt like my skills have been developing pretty rapidly. The most important point here is that Skillshare is mega affordable. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month, and because Skillshare wants to help you learn and grow outside of my tutorials, they're helping me give you 2 free months of premium membership using the link in the description. So make 2020 a year where you explore new skills, explore new passions, and explore your own creativity with Skillshare's online classes. So check out the link in the description and start your free 2 months now and get learning. So in the raw state of the render that was probably previewed somewhere at the start of the tutorial in the introduction, I've stripped out all the lighting and we're just left with the textures here. A couple metal textures with some surface imperfections, some bump maps. Nothing special at all, but that does provide to the realism. Nothing in real life is perfect, everything is always imperfect. It's a rule to follow to get realism, but what I'll start doing is mimicking that lighting to the best of my ability to show you and tell you what's going on as I'm doing it. So I use this Artist Workshop HDRI from HDRI Haven, so I'll link that below. Now you can see right away the lighting's pretty similar. The main consensus here is that with HDRIs you want to use them as a template or a blueprint for the lighting in your scene, because although they do provide lighting, they don't provide always the right amount of lighting. So you want to place lights in your scene in position of where the lights are in the HDRI. In this scenario we have 2 windows and we can't use 2 daylights because that would cause some issues. So either what we do is we place a daylight in the middle here, or we place a daylight in one and we use a fill light in the other. So in real life the light would be applying itself the same amount through each window most likely. So if I drop in a daylight, I mix sky texture and I'll turn up the size a bit so we can see it. So bring it around here, you should start to see it. So if we pop that in there, maybe a bit further towards the right window, and you turn that all the way up, you can see now it's already making the scene look that little bit more real. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to ignore real life because I actually prefer the purpose of it covering this whole window. You turn up the turbidity and we're already getting some nice results. Now what I like to do is I like to tone down the sun color a little bit and the sky color because they're a little bit harsh, and I don't like the orangeness that it provides. And then I'll pop in a nice little Octane light here, and we'll just start. We'll do the age-old trick, and we'll just start pushing this to where we think the light is. Make it gigantic. And then we can start turning that up. So that's one example. Now, of course, what I would usually also do, and I won't ignore this for the sake of the tutorial, is just add some imager effects there to make it more, set the mood a bit. So I've just got a LUT that I've made myself because I'm going to be releasing a LUT pack soon, so I can't provide this LUT right now, but it's essentially a dehazing LUT. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. And of course I've messed with the gamma and the exposure in the scene, so that really sets the mood a lot. I don't like working without those settings because it can mess with the vibe I'm trying to get. Now without lighting, you can see the HDRI, it looks okay, but it's very dark and it's not providing the light we need. Then we have the fill light in there, and then we have the sunlight in there. Now again, you can see the sunlight is all fully orange here, and it's not orange at all in the HDRI, and I don't like that. Now I could keep messing with this scene specifically and the lighting I did in the original scene, but I'm not going to do that because I've already done it, so I'll show it again with a completely different HDRI. So this time I will be using the HDRI, it's called Kaylee Interior again, from HDRI Haven. So with this HDRI, what I'll do is I'll just start rotating it till I kind of find an angle that I like. This looks okay. With the windows off to the right here. With the okay, this will do. And we'll pop out the camera here, and we'll put a daylight just to the right here. Now, one thing I just didn't go over then when I was creating that other scene is, of course, you know, with daylights you rotate them up, and the sunset look that causes tons of fireflies goes away, which is horrible. So I'll just pop that in there, and we already have a daylight which is already providing tons of light to the scene and knocking out some of these orange lights up here. And that is one thing to take note, is we have orange lights above us, so you don't have to go and place them in the exact place because that's tedious and nasty. So what we can do is we can place one light above us, that I've already managed to put the wrong way. And you can make it a disc because, well, a lot of the lights up there are a disc. And we'll make it kind of warm because a lot of the lights up there are kind of warm. And we will make it olive map, a little bit like that. And then this can kind of act as some of those lights up there. And then we'll pop in another one, and we can notice that there's a big window behind us. So we'll drag that way back there. Make sure it's just in line with the camera. Turn off the visibility, and then we have a really nice highlight which that window would provide. Of course, without the light, it just doesn't provide enough light. And then fall off map that again. And pop some more bloom, maybe. And if you ask me, that's some pretty realistic lighting. You could go out your way to make sure this isn't there. Maybe make it much smaller, just so it matches the size of those lights, and then increase the power a bit. Maybe that helps. Aside from that, I wouldn't really mess with it much more. I do think it's a very neat trick to place your lights according to the HDRI, rather than using the HDRI to light your scene, placing your HDRI, and then place your lights in the places where those lights are in the HDRI. And it can be a good way to have very accurate lighting to your background here, so your objects actually look like they're in the environment that they're in. So I probably won't go over much more than that. This is quite a quick effect. If you do want to see the textures, so the ball texture here is just a surface imperfection pumped into these here. It doesn't really need to be in that. And then we have a noise, it's really small and it's inverted, and that's kind of giving some nice little imperfections around here. And the camera settings, we're in a really big lens, because if, well, we weren't in a big lens. So if we weren't in a big lens, we just don't really get the same feel about the scene, in my opinion. Maybe at distance. Sorry, the further away I want to be from something, the smaller the lens I use, and the closer I am, the bigger the lens. So that's pretty much it for that. And of course we have the, kind of looks nice without it actually, doesn't it? So we have the LUT there. Hopefully this helped you understand HDRI lighting a bit more. I know it can be a very common habit to just use HDRIs and stick them at that, but applying lights to your HDRI lights, light sources, is definitely a go-to thing for realistic scenes. So mess about with it and see what results you get. So that's everything for HDRI lighting in Cinema 4D and Octane. Once again, I'd like to thank Skillshare for sponsoring the tutorial. Make sure you go down and check out that link and try and experiment with some of their classes over there. There's a lot more to explore and a lot more to learn. I'll be back next week with another tutorial, so be sure to be ready for that, and be sure to check out my Selfie store and my assets and all my socials, and have fun with some HDRI lighting, and I'll see you in the next one.